recording part 2 from week 3. It's actually part 2 from week 1 to the cloud. And now I'll have to find my slides again that I was just looking at. There we go. So 2 weeks ago, I did discuss a lot of issues about AI in education, and I summarized what was going on. So I have to go beyond all these articles, so apologies. I went to the 30 ways learning's changing, including access and engagement. So I went through the engagement trends, the technologies impacting on engagement, whether they're mobile, visual, game-based, hands-on, immersive, collaborative. And I went through some examples related to social, collaborative, mobile, and digitally rich, and visual, and game-based, and immersive, blah, blah, blah. And then we go to part 2, access, whether it's direct from experts access, online, open, free, informal access. So I had some examples there as well. And I guess I'll just stop here because this was a point that I was going to make earlier tonight, is that Stanford, Harvard, and MIT all have reports that came out post-pandemic indicating that we're not going back to the way it was. They're not going back to the way it was, that things have changed dramatically. So the systematic review of the research during the pandemic is important in many ways in helping universities and colleges and schools and nonprofits and military to reshape their training environments, to understand what works best and what doesn't. So we went through some synchronous and asynchronous with all of you, and some ChatGPT and open education. These are all slides from a couple weeks ago. Okay, and I'm getting about to the point where it's time to wake. Okay, here we ended at circle number 3 of the 3. So customization was the part we didn't get to. So there's 3 mega trends: engagement, access, and customization, that are impacting us and causing a rethinking of human learning, causing a rethinking of human development with technologies wrapped around us. And it's this personalization side, the customization side, that tends to get a lot of press recently. There's a lot of hope, a lot of dreams, especially in this age of generative AI, where the tools can gently nudge us in new directions based on patterns that they see, learning analytics, Jill's dissertation research with data dashboards and whatnot. So this last part, so there are 30 ways learning's changing. I've got 10 ways in each of these quadrants or circles or ovals. This quadrant relates to learning becoming more self-directed, more on demand, more, modular in nature, and more massive, more hybrid, more blended, more high flex. So Brian Beatty, that's Brian, who Cheryl just talked about, who came to Indiana for the Summer Institute and decided to come here for his dissertation, just like Cheryl. He wrote a book a few years ago, right before the pandemic. And the book he wrote or edited is on hybrid flexible learning, what's called high flex learning. And it's free. You can download it right now at edtechbooks.org/highflex. So if you walk into a lot of buildings at IU now, you go to old Woodburn Hall, they have high flex classrooms. So universities are building high flex classrooms based on what Brian has discovered in his research on how students best learn. This is to help personalize the environments for our learners that we have. People are learning in a more self-directed manner, self-initiated manner, being empowered to learn. So open learning, deciding on the learning technologies, deciding on the learning content areas that we want to explore on our mobile devices at any point in time, or on our laptops. We might be learning languages like from Duolingo. I have 2 studies published this year with Shishi Lee and I on Duolingo. Fascinating, talking to people who are using Duolingo to learn Japanese because they want to go to Japan. They're learning Chinese, they're learning Spanish, they're learning English, whatever. It's AI based. The tool has been built by an AI programmer at Carnegie Mellon. I think someone told me he's finally left Carnegie Mellon and has his own company. He also built the CAPTCHA tool, the CAPTCHA. So you have to type in the letters that you see and it has to match or it won't let you go to the next screen. So that guy built that tool first, then he built Duolingo. Now his family, I think he's from Guatemala, his family were like chocolate manufacturers or something. And he watched the machines, and he when he's a young kid in the company, and he learned a lot about mathematics anyhow, apparently. And there's millions and millions of people using his tool, Duolingo, to learn languages. I'm sure he'll be developing other things. Someone, Bo, you can look up his name for us and type in like his Wikipedia page so we can, or interview that he's done, put it in the chat for us.
Can you repeat it for me one more time?
Just the Duolingo owner,
Oh, okay, gotcha.
founder. He's at Carnegie Mellon. I just blanking on it right now. It'll come to me. So learning's more on demand with these chatbots today. I have Alexa in my bathroom. I have Google Home in my kitchen and in my basement. I'm talking to them all the time. They sometimes ignore me. Then I have to repeat myself. But anyways, I think conversational agents are going to be the huge explosion of this decade. Increasingly, we will have these augmentative tools at our side. Bixby is really not that good of a tool in Samsung, but Samsung apparently by the end of January is going to come out with an AI tool that will basically summarize your day for you in video format or audio format. It'll be your companion. I think eventually people born in 2050 will have every second of their lives recorded and be available to watch, and they'll basically never die because the recordings of their lives will be always there, and you'll be able to repurpose those so as to create what you would have said had you still been alive to respond to whatever question comes up along the way. You'll be able to see what college freshman and junior year and senior year was like and what you did on campus. Maybe Bo doesn't want to remember what he was doing freshman year. But where do you go to undergraduate, Bo?
I was a good freshman at Purdue University up here in
Oh,
West
okay.
Lafayette.
No one can get in trouble at Purdue. That's right. Okay. But they came down here in Bloomington.
I got in trouble in Bloomington. I got in trouble in Valparaiso as well. So yeah.
Somehow I don't, yeah, I believe you. So these are the kinds of things that are going to make things more personalized, more customized. We'll be able to, on demand, have our new mentoring tools, ChatGPT or ChatPDF or Claude 2 or whatever other generative tools, AI tools we're relying upon. This will increasingly become an augmentative tool, part of who we are, right? It won't replace who we are. It will enhance, hopefully extend and augment us in new directions. And the Khan Academy is taking advantage of that. And they've got a tool embedded in the Khan Academy system. If you don't know the Khan Academy, Salman Khan developed a series of videos to teach his nieces and nephews about geometry and algebra when they were struggling with it in New Orleans or something. And he was a hedge fund manager, and in his side time, he was just helping his nieces out, and those things went viral. People were using his videos to teach about finance and English or whatever. And it's now everything high school students have to take, as well as maybe first, second year of college. Well, the Gates Foundation gave him 10 million bucks to create an intelligent assessment engine on it so as to respond in a personalized manner to help students get through their math problems or computer science problems or finance or whatever you're teaching them. And now they've adopted a intelligent AI engine. I forgot the name of that one as well. So you can type in that as well. It might pop up here somewhere along the way.
It's
Type
a
in
Conmigo.
Conmigo. That's right. Your friend Conmigo. So Salman Khan, amigo, Conmigo. So did you get the name of the guy who founded Duolingo?
I did. The latency's going
Lewis
very
something,
slow, but
right?
Louis Von On,
Yeah,
I think.
Louis Von On. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
So ASU has partnered with the Khan Academy. They've partnered with OpenAI. They're the first. So this week's news is OpenAI, ChatGPT, has partnered with the university, and actually it's Arizona State. Arizona State's also created a course that's more personalized, Biology 345. They're helping students complete it. It was normally the big dropout. They wouldn't go to medical school because they didn't finish it. Now they're able to reduce dropout rates by 90%. So what it used to be the weeder course, it's now a feeder course. Huh. I just made that up, but I think that's what they might say. Um, they're improving students' grades, increasing retention. I'm sure self-confidence, self-esteem, self-efficacy, all that by creating an adaptive system in biology. Now, if you're interested, I'm thinking about having John Felci join us, who was my student a year ago. He finished. He studied adaptive learning in North Carolina. I think looking at chemistry or computer science or both, as I said last week. I'll talk to John and see if he's using a tool called Realize It. It's apparently a personalized tool that universities are utilizing. Type in Realize It. So learning is also more personalized, and high school kids are aware of this. High school kids, college kids are saying, yeah, ChatGPT is more effective than a human tutor.
Mhm.
Tutors are more effective, only 15% at the high school level, only 5%. So 95% of you out there don't think I'm as good as ChatGPT. How's that? Or Claude, you like to replace Bonk with Claude or anything else. Look, the data is telling. You look at it here, it's more in the math and science areas where the kids, high school kids in particular, and their parents are saying, yeah, this is making an impact on their learning. They're able to understand what they know and don't know. It's cheap. Parents and kids, it's almost free. It's not quite free, but it's almost like being free. It can save time studying. The time's a big factor. Kids got extracurricular activities. So yeah. So learning is also more personalized through voicedness. You can have actors and actresses that you choose and select to be your voice. And maybe a different emotional tone that gets added in. And you may decide you want a certain type of aura or semblance, for your bot. And so you might pick a friendly bot. Bo and I are going to pick a friendly bot. Jill's going to pick the whispering bot. Just the whispering bot, Jill. You see? And Lena's going to pick the hopeful bot. You see? And we've got others in here. Anna will get the cheery bot, right? Someone else might want the sad bot, so you can pick the personality of your bot as well as the tone and voice. This is all natural reader. Go to naturalreaders.com. This is all going to be pervasive. This is just the first iteration, the first round. They're still in primitive land, right? Learning is also moving to more modular in nature. So students, today I had a colleague say, University of Chicago is offering this learning analytics degree certificate 6 weeks in the summer, 5 weeks in the summer for only $2,800, $2,800. Should I take this one? And then I type it in there, and sure enough, University of Chicago AI bot sends me one on generative AI. They want me to sign up for their institute to learn about generative AI for $2,800. So learning is more moving to these smaller bits, nano degrees, micro credentials. We had a student 2 years ago, a year and a half ago, finished his PhD. His name's Raj. He looked at micro credentials. He's now at University of Texas at Austin, helping them figure this out. So people are moving to this area of smaller bits of learning because we don't have time in our schedules. Who has the time to leave their families and their jobs and so forth? And when you get this micro credential, you can stack it so that you can build a four course micro credential into a 30-hour master's degree, because those 4 classes will count maybe. Students here, you look at, students are preferring those short bits. They're preferring the skills training. They're preferring the non-degree credentials. You see that right there, it's evident. And look here, you've got non-degree certificates from 2012 to 2018. Look at the growth. This is where higher education's moving to. A lot of universities are going to fall by the wayside, and they already are. West Virginia's got huge problems where I used to teach. University of Nebraska has problems apparently right now with enrollments. And they were an early player in distance learning 50, 60, 100 years ago, Nebraska was, and so is West Virginia. They haven't kept up. These non-degree areas are what are important for the sustainability, viability of the university and MOOCs. Now, the guy who collects the MOOC data, my friend Dawal Shah, can no longer collect it because there's so many types of MOOCs. There's so many derivatives out there, and they're now self-paced MOOCs. They used to come every month. They'd have new MOOCs. Now, once it's up, it's permanently up, and you can join a MOOC anytime on your own, self-paced through it. There's no longer an instructor typically there. So you look at the growth. These are massive open online courses. So Maina and I have been studying these for the past 8-9 years. We've collected 3,000 MOOC instructor names. We've published over a dozen studies, maybe 15, maybe more, on engagement, personalization, cultural sensitivity, instructional design, motivation, and perceptions of student self-directed learning aspects of a MOOC. So my colleagues, Ka Zhang at Wayne State, Mimi Lee at Houston, Tom Reeves at Georgia, and Tom Reynolds at National, who I went to grad school with, we've got 3 books between us, not all of us on all 3. The first one, MOOCs and Open Ed Around the World, came out in 2015. Simultaneously, MOOCs and Open Education in a special journal issue, also a print-on-demand book, 2015. And then MOOCs and Open Ed in the Global South, 2020. And the third one won an award, actually. And so did the first one won an award, actually. Yes, the first one, MOOCs and Open Ed Around the World. So in the third one, we've got an article from Cornell. My colleague, Professor Marian Krasny, has designed her MOOCs so as to get kids to work together to contribute to causes. For instance, environmental cleanup. So she might have kids in Bahamas, kids in China, kids in Nepal, kids in Kenya, all working together and studying together, learning about climate change or learning about STEM. She's got a lot of STEM grants and funding on these STEM projects. So it's called MOOCs for a Cause. And some are called GMOOCs, or group-based MOOCs. My colleagues from Nepal, my friend Bayman Kamar Gimur, he works at Motherland Secondary School, and he told me that, he had a workshop for 70 students ages 13 to 15. They're so excited to learn from MOOCs that they all got their certificates from Harvard in English. And they were so excited, then they wanted to take more classes. So they got a Harvard certificate. These are kids, in the middle of Nepal. And now they're helping their friends get access. So Shishi Lee and Dilnoza and Mena Ju and we've been publishing a couple. We got one published and one in final review on this study. So if you'd like to read, we got one on communities that were created, the networks these kids created. I've written a couple grant proposals. I've not gotten them funded, unfortunately, to get this expanded, but I'd like to understand this better. And some of these kids they've taken over 100 MOOCs. Some of these kids, they're taking dozens during the pandemic and then sharing with their friends. Parents were afraid kids would be playing games. They came home from work and the kids weren't playing games. They were taking MOOCs. So they end up getting more computer access. And the government enhanced the computer access in Nepal to let them access these MOOCs and other MOOCs. It's just amazing and astounding. So one kid, he's in grade 10. I'm taking global health policy. No, I'm taking economic growth and distributed justice. No, I'm going to take research methods course. So at least could take research methods. These kids are 16 years old. They're going to take this. English for science and technology, engineering and math, science of stem cells. We interviewed these kids. They're just amazing. They're going to be future ambassadors. It's just such a fun study to be involved in, and interviewed the teachers as well. This is so cool. You just gotta, you're in the education space, just find cool stuff to look at. I shouldn't say this, if professors aren't studying cool stuff, you can study cool stuff on your own. And just, you don't have to study what they're studying. You just got to justify what you want to study, right? So Stanford, they were on my podcast show. These guys were on my podcast show 2 years ago, maybe 3 years ago, on Halloween, my first year of my podcast show. It was fascinating. These kids are just so, talking to them, they gave definitions of self-directed learning better than my graduate students. Sorry, I don't want to embarrass any of you, but they're so smart. these kids. And then Stanford said, you know, we need to get programming out, STEM education, that people know. We teach Python programming or whatever. So they created Code in Place. Code in Place doesn't have any instructor. Instead, they have volunteer instructors. 3,000 volunteer instructors teach Code in Place. 30,000 students have taken it to date, 120 countries. This was a dissertation waiting to happen, interviewing these people who've taken these Code in Places or interviewing the teachers about their skills. Now, they do have 3 people in charge, but it's their former students who are volunteer teaching this course. Fascinating. The field is so fascinating. So all this stuff I'm presenting now, and I presented 2 weeks ago, all this overview, you're going to read the research, the guts, the nuts and bolts, and you sometimes won't see this big picture pull out. But the big picture, we need to come to every once in a while and pull back a little bit. Arizona State, I told you, Arizona State's doing so much. Well, they had one guy, he donated a whole ton of money. He's like a billion zillionaire. And he says, I'd like to create a free service to help people in the global South. I'd like to help in Vietnam and Cambodia and Kenya and wherever in the world. And I don't want to just help 30 people or 100 people or 1 million people. I want to help 100 million. He wants to impact on 100 million learners. They're going to create 5 courses that are somewhat taught by AI, but someone, maybe a human in the loop too. Global leadership, digital marketing, global entrepreneurship, data analytics, and global financial accounting. What a brave person that is. I shouldn't say this either, but I applied for a job at Arizona State 2 years ago. I didn't get it. I wanted to work for this. I wanted to go work there. Sorry, Lena and Jill would be mad if I'd be gone, you know, so I had to stay behind, you know. So it's time to wake up. Well, so on the count of 3, just like 2 weeks ago, on the count of 3, I want to say, it's time to wake up, everyone. 1, 2, 3. It's time to wake up.
Wake up.
Time to wake up.
1, 2, 3. It's time to wake up.
It's time to
Time to
wake
wake
up.
up.
Okay, this talk is about done. These are the 30 ways that learning's changing. Learning's more adventurous, more digital, more immersive, more global, more video-based, all these. It's more self-directed. You just pick one of these things, it'd be a revolution. We've got 30 things happening simultaneously. The field of, I don't know what this field, learning design technology, instructional technology, whatever we call it, is probably one of the most exciting fields imaginable, because you can study any of these things, any, or a combination thereof, and there'll be more coming. Stay tuned. You know, the field is expanding, and it's become more inclusive, and it's become more respected, and people are relying on us to do the systematic reviews of the research so they can understand what's happening in gaming, what's happening in wearable technologies, what's happening in social media, what's happening related to intersubjectivity, what's happening related to MOOCs, what's happening related to online learning, blended learning. All this, they want to know. They want to know. So this course is giving you an inclination of what's going on, because people are living longer. They're taking their undergrad and grad degrees maybe, but now they're getting YouTube degrees. Arizona State started, YouTube Versity, right? They're creating the short courses at Stanford, Code in Place, free classes to code, boot camps, professional certificates, micro-credentials, all these things. So my former student, Rovi Brannon, on the right there, who was with Brian Beatty at the same time, he's created an idea called the 60-year curriculum. Along with my podcast partner, Chris Deedy at Harvard. Chris Deedy has a book on the 60-year curriculum. Rovi's got a chapter in there. I recommend Chris's book. Maybe Bo can put the link in the Amazon book to Chris Deedy, D-E-D-E, 60-year curriculum. You know, when we have students, not just coming for 4 years of college, but who will live to 100 and need reskilling, need retooling, need upskilling throughout their lives, you're going to need a university or a set of universities or partnerships to create structures to bring students back in a short burst, right? These micro-credentials and other things. You need to welcome them in, right? I've got 10 questions, then we'll call it a night. 10 questions for smarter learning environments. So this talk was about smarter learning environments. Well, will teacher training programs change? Who's going to teach the teachers about all these possibilities, as well as the small differences, the nuances in and among them. How will they change their teaching strategies to take those into account? What types of data are we going to need to collect, Jill, from your digital dashboard? What kinds of data is going to be produced? What kind of data is going to be analyzed? And what analysis methods are we going to use to better understand smarter learning environments to help us make better decisions about learning? What about engagement? How is engagement, learning engagement, going to change as we increasingly are more in immersive worlds, or more blended worlds, more visually based worlds, more massive worlds? This notion of engagement was different when I started as a faculty member a long time ago than it is today. Yep. And what means of automatic translation? You know, Samsung's going to have a new technology soon, the end of this month. Will I take advantage of it? I hope. You know, what means of translation? How will this change the personalities of the bots, right? And the voices, that's just a start. How will it change your day? How will they summarize your day? You know, how will we be able to converse with others in other languages around the world? And how can agents and chatbots and robots in immersive worlds be embedded in society to help us as we live older and we maybe become more lonely and we've lost our loved ones along the way? Or how can they help us get new knowledge that we want, maybe to go back to the workforce? And, you know, I was reading about a doctor in Ohio, he's over 100 years old, still practicing, you know. That'll be more the norm coming up, and before the end of this century, that will be more the norm than abnormal. And what will your definition of smart be in 5 years, in 10 years, in 20 years, in the 21st century? What does it mean to be smart, right? Is it effective use of our augmentative tools that wrap around us? Or is it disuse and chucking these in the garbage? Will that be smart? How much data is too much data? Jill, we don't want all the data in front of us in your digital dashboard. How can we get information filtering tools embedded in those devices to restrict the access so as not to overwhelm us with too much information at one time? And how will we recognize when we arrived at a smarter age? You know, we want smarter learning. I go to Korea, everything's smarter learning. I go to Japan or China, smarter. They actually have 2 new journals on smart learning environments, but can they define the word smart for me? What does it mean to be smart in 2024, in 2034, in 2044? How do we know? What signals do we have that we are smarter? And is this machine, is what Jill's doing to me, the machine-centered pedagogy, really, really under the disguise called personalizing learning? Maybe what Arizona State's doing, maybe what Bill Gates is doing, maybe what the Khan Academy is doing is not what I want. Maybe they're structuring the tool to give us responses and to give us content from a perspective of they know better. They have the better grasp of what I need to know, but I lose my empowerment. I lose my autonomy. I lose a sense of who I am if the machine, if the system, if those instructional designers trained at Indiana University are constantly designing stuff to do something to me. I'm going to lose my humanness if that's the case. Can I opt out of that system at any point in time? Or must I go through it? It's going to be Jill's designs, her dashboard is going to be mandated by the whole school, mandated by the whole university, and I have to use it. Do I have an option when and where I use this? And how will this class, I had conference up here, I was in Japan last month. How will this class look in 10 years, in 5 years, in 20 years? I won't be around 50 years. How will this class look like? And where will smarter learning environments make the greatest contributions to society? Are we getting smarter? It's time to wake up. 1, 2, 3. It's time to wake up.
It's time to wake up.
To wake up.
1, 2, 3. It's time to wake up.
Wake up.
Time to wake up.
So it's time to jump off. We're at a new starting point. Here I am at South China Normal, and no one's jumping with me, as you can see. I'm at South China Normal there. No one's jumping with me. I was taking my picture. So on the count of 3, can I get everyone to jump? 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Okay, you can have a seat.
I hit the ceiling.
I'm sure you did. How tall are you?
6'4".
Oh, I want to be 6'4". Can we change bodies, right? For just for the semester. I won't take it, keep it long. Maybe I could go play for Purdue basketball team, So things are heating up.
Smeagol. Hey, we did need to address before we move on your Pokeball that you had on the graphic earlier. That
Okay,
was a
hang
good
on.
one.
So the revolution's coming within all our reach. I've had these slides up in previous classes, but the revolution's on, but I can't do this alone. So on the count of 3, I need you all to say, I cannot do this alone. 1, 2, 3. I cannot do this
do this
alone.
alone.
1,
Cannot do
2,
this
3.
alone.
I cannot do
cannot
this
do this
alone.
alone.
I cannot do this alone.
1, 2, 3. I cannot
do
do
this
I cannot do
alone.
this alone.
So my notes from last month are up at Training Share. They're in your Dropbox as well. My papers at Publication Share, my free books at Tech Variety, multiple free books now. Free, and not free. The one that Elisa's going to review I edited with Maina Ju, just won an award at the ACT. So we've gone through a lot the last few weeks in here. Thanks for hanging around longer tonight. This is 3 hours almost here with all of you. Comments or questions to wrap us up? What do I have, Bo? What was it that I've got to fix?
Oh, no, nothing to fix. Both Jill and myself caught that in one of your slides, you had a Pokeball as the graphic.
I don't even know what a Pokeball is, but okay.
It's from Pokemon. It's
I
like what
figured it was,
the
yeah.
trainers throw out to catch the Pokemon. Yeah, so it was good.
Any comments? Amelia from Japan, we have. Any other countries here tonight? Well, since no one, go ahead.
I'm from Dubai, but I study here in IU.
Okay, I've been to Dubai many times. I've been to Abu Dhabi as well, and other parts of the UAE. I've helped run conferences and whatnot. But they didn't invite me back. I don't know why anymore. I like going there. So I want to thank you all for coming and hearing about this. I'm going to stop the recording, part 2 of week 1, part 2 of week 3. This is simultaneous part 2. Hopefully the first 2 weeks the first 3 weeks have gotten you a little taste of what's going on in this area of emerging learning technologies. You're reading the research. I'm going to try and pull back out the big picture from time to time so we can make sense of, get this. So Dr. Charlie Reguluth has this elaboration theory. From time to time, we need to go in depth. Other times we need to pull back out and see the big picture. So hopefully we can do some of both in this class. Given that I do a lot of keynotes and whatnot, I have to do the big picture. But I have a lot of research too, so that's real specific stuff. So I think I'll present some of my research in here as well this semester as we move along. So R678, week 3, closing here, spring of 2024. Thank you.